as a stand-up comedian and corporate entertainer. Now, is it because I'm so funny? Well, that's part of it, but the main reason I work so much is because you're under so much stress. Companies hire me for comic relief, to relieve the stress of their employees' work and home life. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the work, but if the truth be known, you don't need me. You have in your possession the strongest non-prescription antidote for stress there is. It doesn't cost anything. You can have it anytime you want. You just have to know how to use it. Well, doesn't it? This feels good to laugh. Doesn't this feel good to laugh? This is what we should do more of, I think. This is a good opportunity for us to talk about how to reduce stress with humor, with this great antidote that we have all the time, this humor that is here. Think about the stress. Who's under stress right now? Just raise your hand. Tremendous amount of stress. Tremendous amount of stress in this room. That's all right, as long as you can identify it. Here's the problem with stress. We get in it, we get overwhelmed, and we don't know what to do about it, except get frustrated, and then we get unproductive, or we get sick, then we get depressed, we lose our families, we end up living in a cardboard box downtown. Tell when you're under stress. Can't you feel it physically? Things aren't fun anymore. You get headaches. All the signals are there physically. We get physical signals that tell us, triggering, it's time to relieve the stress. Step 2, identify which kind of stress it is. We only have 2 kinds of stress. Isn't that amazing? We only have 2 kinds of stress. The first kind of stress is when the stress is caused by people or events that are in our control. This is the worst kind because we're responsible for the outcome. This is when the cards are on the table, we're responsible. Of course we're going to feel the stress because whatever happens, it's in our control. This is overwhelming. How do you combat this kind of stress? Very simply, the same way screenwriters and songwriters and comedians combat the same kind of stress. If I were to tell you to write a novel tomorrow, could you do it? That would be a lot of stress. You could write it if you had to write a page at a time, though. When we have stress within our control, that's all you do. You cut it up into small, bite-sized pieces. Map it out, much like people plan a wedding, much like builders plan building a home. If you see the little pieces along the way, you can feel accomplished after every little piece. But if kind of stress is the awful kind. This is when everything is out of your control. You're stressed because of a tragedy, because somebody in another department, somebody in your family is causing problems that you feel, and you have no control over the outcome. What I have, and I have gone through some stress in my life. I lost a job and my wife in the same month, and even though I was a comedian, I had to come up with some tools on how to deal with this. I developed a funny file. Now, in the funny file, and what I'm talking about here are things that you can keep around your desk. I know that some people say, well, here's what you ought to do. You sit in your chair and then raise your arms up and scream. I think that's great if you want to work somewhere else. Because the chances are you'll have your afternoon free if you do that in the morning. What I'm suggesting is that you do things that are private, so that you're the one that is going through the stress. Why don't you be the one who takes care of it? Here's what I have in my funny file. I have funny friends. There are cards in here. I have some very funny friends. I'm sure all of you have funny friends. Just put their phone numbers in there so when you're feeling stressed, you can give them a call. You would be amazed what happens in 2 minutes of talking to somebody who's funny. Here's something, and I have I don't have that friend anymore. I also have jokes and quotes in here, things that I want to remember, things that I want to tell other people. That's the difference between you and me. As a professional comedian, I'm constantly aware of humor. I write down things. I keep this little notepad with me all the time so that I can write down things that people say. Whether it's something that was said in someone's living room that caused people to laugh, I want to remember it. I'll put it down in my little book. Greeting cards in your desk, not only for you, but for people who are going through stress themselves. You notice when people are having a hard time. Wouldn't it be nice if you had a card that you could instantly give them that day when they're feeling it? Here are 3 cards that I love. And these are some that I've kept. This one, I don't know if you can see, there's a man with a bee's nest beard. And on the back, I sent this, it says, we all get stung once in a while. And I would send that to people. Here's another one. Here's the wolf man. I'm sorry if I snapped at you, but I haven't been myself lately. Now, this is the other thing that I do. I keep little books around. These little books that you can get in any bookstore, you can turn to any page and get a laugh. Now, this one happens to be Golfing Amongst Idiots. If you're a golfer, you'd appreciate this. And this little book is a fine addition to your library. And I'm not talking about taking your work lightly. I'm talking about taking yourself lightly. take your work very seriously. Newsletters and cartoons. If you have a company newsletter, encourage people to submit cartoons or stories or little jokes so that you can put it in there. Not only will the people get a kick out of being published, but they'll get a kick out of having people in the company, their coworkers, enjoy them. What about jokes? Can you and should you tell jokes at work? Well, there is a very big rule about jokes. Remember the punchline. That is so frustrating when somebody tries to tell you a joke, and they get to the end, and then the guy went around the corner. I don't remember what happened after that. Remember the punchline. And I will tell you this, that keep your setup short. If you have a long, shaggy dog setup that's going to this punchline better be explosive. We have wasted a lot of minutes listening to the front part of this. It better have an explosive punchline. Otherwise, people are going to, oh, I hate your jokes. Tell short setups, good punchlines, you'll be fine. Avoid racist humor, religious humor, homophobic humor, creed. Anything that would be politically incorrect is simply not funny. And I'll give you one other thing to be careful about. Sarcasm and satire. They are very tricky to work correctly. And if you don't know how to do it, you'll hear people say, that wasn't very funny. Well, if you have to explain, well, that was a joke. I was just telling you a joke. If you hear yourself saying that, you don't know how to deliver sarcasm. Call them humor muscles. Call them whatever. All you have to do is open your desk drawer like this, pull out your file, and change your attitude. So there you have it. Now you have the most powerful non-prescription antidote for stress there is. To access it, just remember, pay attention to the physical stress signals. Feeling anxious, overwhelmed, or other physical reactions like hives, labored breathing, sweating, nervousness are all physical signals that your body is telling you to get relief fast. Identify which kind of stress you have so you can choose the fastest relief. If it is stress caused by people or events in your control, write out the step-by-step process to resolve the problem. Then tackle one obstacle at a time. However, if the stress is caused by people or events outside your control, you simply have to learn to let go and find ways to release the stress. If you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, create a funny file. Your funny file should contain, number 1, phone numbers of funny friends. Second, look through your photo album. See yourself having fun or your children laughing. Third, reread funny stories and cartoons that you've collected. Fourth, keep funny greeting cards on hand. Send them to friends or send them to yourself. It will take your mind off the stressful event and keep you creative. Fifth, temporarily change your environment. See a movie matinee, go to a park or a playground and watch children giggling and playing. Now, what can your company do to relieve stress using humor? Well, first of all, management has to adopt a safe environment for humor, that it's okay to smile. Second, some companies keep the lunchroom stocked with funny books, videos, and games. Third, another easy way to get the ball rolling is to leave lighthearted messages on voicemail or make mundane inter-office memos fun to read by signing off with a funny pen name. Fourth, assign a different court jester for each meeting and have them end each meeting with a joke they've heard, a cartoon, or a funny inter-office memo. Fifth, allow people to contribute cartoons, stories, or jokes to the company newsletter. It not only makes them feel like a part of the organization, but they'll enjoy the feedback from their coworkers. Sixth, what about telling jokes at the office? Well, jokes are fine, but be sensitive that they're not racist, sexist, off-color, homophobic, and poke fun at religion or creed. And finally, sarcasm and satire are the trickiest to handle and can be the most hurtful. If you have to say, I was joking, then you don't have a sense for handling sarcasm. Stay with humor that makes fun of yourself, not others. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you use these techniques to reduce the stress in your home and work life. But